Hello Squids, it's me Sid and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in June. Don't mind my dog if you can hear him. He's nervous, and so is my other dog. She's also nervous. So I read 7 books in June, and I'm here to tell you about them. So the first book that I read in June was The Three by Sarah Lotz. This is the first book in a series, and it is portrayed as a horror novel. Now, this book follows 3 children who have survived a plane crash and the fallout following that, where a preacher believes that these 3 children are the harbingers of the apocalypse. Now, I wouldn't call this book horror. There's someone doing yard work outside, sorry. I wouldn't call this book horror. I would call it more of a thriller, because not a lot of horror happens. I mean, not in the terms of like ghosts or paranormal activity or like aliens or anything like that. It was definitely more of like a thriller mystery type book than a horror book. I thought it was really interesting the way it was written, because it was written kind of like a bunch of interviews listed together about the kids. And I thought that was super interesting. I thought that was super well done. It left me hanging on till the very end, and then the end let me down. It was just not good. It was very much a cliffhanger at the end, and it like didn't wrap anything up. And I felt really disappointed with the end of it, because I was like, if you just didn't read that last chapter, it was really good. It was really great. I thought it was super interesting, but just that ending was not good. Despite that, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, because like I said, I did like pretty much all of the book up until that very end. It just was not a horror book, it was a thriller, and the ending left a lot to be desired. So that was The Three by Sarah Lotz. Next, I read Sign Here by Claudia Lux. I hated this book. I hated it. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. I should have given it a 1 out of 5 stars, but those 1 stars are reserved for truly horrendous books. Sign Here was sold to me as this book about people who work in hell, kind of like in a company, and everything is like a little bit just annoying. Like, they only play 1 song, every drink is a little lukewarm, you know, stuff like that. So it's just like minor inconveniences of these people who work in basically corporate hell. That is not what this book is about. I don't think this book knows what this book is about, to be honest with you. There's 2 plot lines that run, I hesitate to say side by side because they don't really run side by side, but there's 2 plot lines that run throughout the book. One is about this new girl in corporate hell and her story of how she got there. And the other is this guy's family and them as they fall apart, basically. None of the characters were redeemable. Like, the human family that's on Earth that's like working through all this stuff, I didn't care about any of them, to be honest. I didn't want any of them to live. I didn't care about any of them. It was just not super interesting. And then for the woman in hell, she was just annoying. I didn't like her. I didn't think she was nice. I didn't think her trauma made it okay for her to be such a terrible person. I mean, obviously you have to be a terrible person to get into hell unless you like sign a deal or whatever. But I don't know. I think it just it wasn't what I wanted it to be, and none of the characters were interesting or redeemable or anything like that. So again, that was Sign Here by Claudia Lux, and I gave that a 2 out of 5 stars. Next, I read The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami. This book was weird. This book I read for my top 100 book poster challenge that I'm doing, that you can look over on my TikTok, which is Squids Can Read. But this book is a magical realism book that follows this dude as he works through trying to get his wife back, basically. And the copy that I read is the combination of all 3 books. So The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle is actually a set of 3 books, and the version that I read is actually all 3. And I read it on an ebook, which made it like 690 pages, which was a lot for me to read on my iPad mini. It was just a lot. And the writing styles varied. Obviously that makes more sense because they're different books. And the plot lines, it was good, but it was long and inconsistent, which I thought was really annoying for a book that didn't state that it was books 1 through 3, and that just kind of changed willy-nilly back and forth and all of this stuff. It is magical realism, and I thought the magical realism part was super interesting. It was okay, I guess is what I'm gonna say. I thought it was interesting. I think the first book was my favorite. And then it just kind of went downhill from there, honestly. And I gave that 3.5 out of 5 stars, and that was The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. Then I read An Ancient Peace by Tanya Huff. I have beef with this book because it says it is the first book of a series, but it is actually a sequel series, and you have to have read the first series because this series, I guess, is not... It's a straight continuation. Like, there's so many callbacks to the first series of books, and it's like, I don't understand what's going on. And this was for my TBR challenge. It's over there. I'll probably actually get rid of it because I didn't think it was that interesting. I thought the world building was super interesting because I think all the aliens and all of that sort of stuff and the culture was super interesting. I just thought that the actual story of it didn't pick up until like 3/4 of the way through the book. And if I'm reading a 300-page book, I want it to pick up a little sooner than that, you know? It was basically, it's about this group of mercenaries for hire, and they go and they try to stop this grave robber. And that's interesting, but they only get to the grave robbing site, this group of mercenaries, 3/4 of the way through the book. So this is the book, they only get there here, and then the rest just happens. And it just, like, I wanted this part to be more drawn out, and I wanted this part to be less, I guess. And that was also a 3.5 stars, and that was An Ancient Peace. Next, I read The Girl in the Green Silk Gown. I also have beef with this book because, actually I'm gonna pull it out, because this is the second book in a series. Tell me where it says that it's the second book in a series. Legitimately tell me where, because it doesn't say. And that made me really upset. I'll put it back later. But that made me really upset because I was worried that this book was going to be a direct callback to the first book, and it's not. It's done very well. It's done where it gives you enough clues about what happened in the first book so you're not confused reading this book. And this book is about a young woman, dead woman, who is trying to find her way back to her family. and I thought it was really interesting, and I really enjoyed it. The world building, like I said, was super interesting. The combination of so many different afterlife mythologies was just really entertaining to read. I really liked that the main character, no matter what, always said that she could take care of herself, that she didn't want people to save her, that she wanted people to help her. And I thought that was super interesting, and I thought that was super nice. So I just didn't like that nowhere on the cover did it say that it was the second book in a series, but I really did like this book, and I would go back and read the first. And I think there's also a third one too. And I gave that 4.25 stars. And that was The Girl in the Green Silk Gown by Sheehan McGuire. Sheehan? That's how it's written. Next, I read Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Now, this is also the first book of a series. I don't know if I want to read the rest of the series. Not because it was bad. I really liked this book. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. But it was sweet. It was heartwarming. I just don't know if I want to read the second one because it ended in a very nice way. So this book is about Emily Wilde and her journey to try and finish her Encyclopedia of Fairies. But she and her work buddy go through a bunch of shenanigans in this small northern town with their group of fairies. And it was super cute. It was super interesting. I know this book is heralded as like one of the cozy fantasy books, and it is. It is to me. It was very cozy. I really liked how this book balanced the gaining of like the knowledge for the fairy encyclopedia and like the action a lot, and there was a little romance in it, but to me, what I like about cozy fantasy is that the romance is usually on the back burner, and I like that a lot because I'm not a big romance person, and if there is romance, I usually like it to be not the forefront unless it's a romance novel, which I don't like many of. So, but yeah, I thought it was really cute. If you like fantasy, if you don't really like fantasy, this is a pretty light one to get into if you want to try and get into it. And I gave that 5 out of 5 stars. And that was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. So what I read next was Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. I listened to this as an audiobook. I would definitely recommend reading it that way because I thought it was super interesting that way. Having it be read to me, I thought that was super interesting, super nice, super cool. And I just thought that it was better done that way, to be honest. I'm not a big nonfiction person. Honestly, I think nonfiction is usually really boring and uninteresting, but Sapiens wasn't to me. It's about the evolution of humans, but not just biologically, also culturally and religiously, and I thought that was super interesting. I also thought it was super interesting how the author looked on both sides of humanity's accomplishments, like the accomplishments that we did, but also the downsides to that, and how our evolution affected more than just us. And I thought that was super interesting. And I also thought it was really funny to listen to the audiobook because the narrator was very deadpan and the book sometimes is not, and I just thought it was really funny to listen to the narrator just read a really funny joke just completely deadpan. But yeah, I rated that 5 out of 5 stars, and that was Sapiens. So yeah, those were the 7 books that I read in June. I was bad this June and I didn't read very many queer novels. But to make up for it, this July I am planning to do a video about all the queer books that I have read, and I will rate them and I'll talk about them and do all the things about that. And I don't know when that will come out, but look for that. Yeah, so that was my June wrap up. Oh, and before I go, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. And you can always leave me a book recommendation in the bottom, or tell me what you think of the books that I talked about here. Alright, I'll see you next time. Bye!